went off as smoothly as I think it did. I definitely need some feedback to let me know that actually went through. I'm really hoping it did. Oh, man. Audio echo. We'll figure this out. Don't you worry, guys. If I just change that, is there still an audio echo? Oh, wait. Is the audio echo from me? It probably is from me, isn't it? Oh, sweet. Briz doesn't hear. I'll believe Briz. He's better than you, bad times. All right. Well, if I switch over to here, do you still not hear echo, Briz? I hope you still don't hear echo, because maybe this is what's causing the echo. As you're responding, and I appreciate your feedback there, Briz, as you're responding. So yeah, I'm going to be streaming an hour of What Remains of Edith Finch, my absolutely favorite game of all time. Trav talked about it in his show. That's right, not Steve's show, his show. He talked about it in his show previous. Thank you all who came over from that to this. I'm hoping that anyone who's maybe not familiar with me or anything will enjoy me talking about this game that I love so much. So yeah, this game. Like, why the heck am I? First of all, donate money. Please donate money to the International Rescue Committee. It's a really, really good organization, really amazing. There's a link in the description. There's a link that periodically appears in the chat. So please take a look at that. Also, not to goad you into it too much, but it's my birthday. Today is literally my birthday, and it's the big birthday. It's 40 years old. 40 years old is what I am today. I don't really celebrate birthdays, so to me it's just another number. But if that makes you feel either bad for me or happy for me enough to donate a little bit of money, that would be awesome. So very cool. Thank you all so much for the happy birthdays. And I also don't know. I'm not actually looking at Twitch right now. I'm looking at the Twitch pop-up chat from within OBS. So I'm not sure how it's going to go in terms of alerts for donations and stuff like that. I don't really have any incentives for you guys. I don't have any cool hot seat questions to answer or anything like that. So it's not as though I'm giving anything back from the donations, but that's just to say that if I don't hear them or anything like that, I apologize for that. But hopefully I will. So, all right. Am I being too loud? My voice is giving me a little bit of red. Is that too loud for anybody? I'm going to scooch it down just a smidgen. So yeah, this game. Why am I talking about this game? Why am I going to stream this game? And I'm only going to be streaming an hour of it. The whole game takes probably like an hour and a half to 2 hours, so we won't get through the whole thing. Plus, I'm going to be talking a lot, so I apologize for that. But yeah, it could come down a smidgen. Thank you. Let me do that. There we go. Hopefully that's a little better. I'm excited. Maybe that's why I'm screaming so loud. But yeah, I really, really like this game. It blew my mind when I first started playing it. I'm actually in the middle of writing a book about it. And so as I play through here, I'll probably talk a little bit about maybe what I've learned from some of the development team that I've talked to. I've talked to the creative director. I've talked to the lead artist. I've talked to the voice actress for Edith Finch, and I plan on talking to a few more people and just getting some cool stories. But I also just want to share this game that I love so much with you. So I'm going to do that right now before I keep talking. But also, if anybody who's in the chat right now, let me know if you've played this game or not before. Maybe give me like a 1 a 1 as in true, yes, a 0 as a no, I haven't. So 1 I have played, 0 I haven't, to give me a sense of, I don't know, what kind of crowd is going on here. But without further ado, let's play this dang game, shall we? All right, got lots of trees, of course we do. I did hear something come in. Oh, thank you. Birthday Fairy. Thank you, Birthday Fairy. I appreciate it. All right, so here we are. This is the very beginning of the game. We're on a ferry boat, as you can see, and we're someone with a cast. God, already I could start talking about this game. The cast, I actually asked so this is the character Christopher. He's Edith Finch's son. Spoilers, but by this time Edith Finch is dead. You play as Edith Finch, but she's in the chronology. She's already dead. But this cast, I asked the creative director about this cast. I'm like, well, why would you put this kid in a cast? Like, what was really the point of that? Because it just seemed kind of out of place and weird. And he was like, really, it was just to be visually distinct from Edith, which I guess makes sense if you're only seeing hands in this game. But me and my stupid brain, I was like, well, wait, it's also a son. Christopher's a son. Is there any reason to think that Christopher being a boy allows him to somehow control the curse? And a lot of people had ones in the chat, so I'm not going to worry about explaining the entire story. But like, is it important that Christopher is a male, basically not able to naturally reproduce? Is that important for like breaking the curse? Because as you'll find out, Edith is pregnant with Christopher as you're playing, and he's like, nope, just needed a cast, made him a boy just for no reason, just because. So I looked way too much into that.
Start at the beginning.
There we go. Now you can hear it. Sorry.
The house.
So that image right there, man, that is a powerful image of that house, all rickety, basically daring to stay erect. That should not be there, that house. I like this opening, too, because if you've played it through a few times, you can kind of take a look around and sort of start forming opinions of the game before you even actually know what's going on. Like, if you immediately turn around here, you can see that
someone had put up a chain link fence, but it looked like I wasn't the first person to hop it.
So you learned that the way she got into this property was by hopping the chain link fence. She didn't actually get through the lock or anything like that. So she's someone who's willing to be a little bit dangerous. And then you kind of look down and you realize, oh, and she's visibly pregnant. So there seems to be a sense in this family that, like, there's sort of a dangerous family. And if you look at the house, you can also see that as well. And so there's this constant tension, like, between Edie, the grandmother, who thinks there's this curse killing all her family, and then also, well, no, it could just be her family's a bunch of dangerous
I lived here until
people.
I was 11.
It could be as simple
but
as that.
I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
I don't think there's a run button in this game, so it's going to be... Sorry, everyone. Okay, sorry.
Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
Yes, she has not been back in 7 years. Her and her mother...
I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral.
Lewis. Her older brother, I believe? We won't get to Lewis's story, but if you haven't played this game...
My mother left me a key,
it's worth it just for Lewis's story.
Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
There we go. God, the game really is
No one had driven this way in a long
too.
time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
Yeah, I love that too, how the text will appear and break apart. I love that, you know, it's interesting because as you'll see, the entire house, there's tons of books in the house, and if you look at it, you can almost say like the house is built on stories literally and figuratively, because there's all these books just hanging out. Hi dear, or Buck. We'll meet you later at the end of the game. There's all these books stacked up in the house, and so the house looks like it's literally built with stories in the same way that the house is, the home, the family is figuratively built by stories.
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it.
And so when you see these words like appear and sort of follow the environment,
But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
It's another layer to the world actually being built with stories and with words and stuff. It's really, really cool. It's something a lot of people don't see sometimes. I think we can trigger it going this way. I don't know if it'll trigger right away, but there's that weird lizardy thing over there. It'll trigger later. But it's a slide.
The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
So we have a key, we know that, and you know, if you've played a video game before, you know to go somewhere that you're not logically supposed to. But I'll play dumb and say I have a key, it must open the front door, so let's go there.
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words.
Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
God, the voice actress does such a good job in this game. Okay, so yeah, if I go over here, I wonder if I can see it yet. But everything about this game is funneled through the matriarch sort of. Her name is Edie, the great grandmother, through her eyes.
I asked Edie once about the dragon in the pond. She said it had killed her husband.
So you learn.
I was 6. It seemed like an odd joke to me, even then.
Yeah, that's Edie in a nutshell right there. She stretches real things that happen, but makes them sound a little mythical. Like she tells the newspaper later on that a dragon killed her husband. Well, technically that is true, I guess, but it really fell on him when he was installing it. And that's the tension that you have in this entire game, is waffling between those. So if I try to insert the key...
I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't.
I've probably played through this game 12 or so times, which isn't... I mean, it's only an hour and a half long, but it's... But I see new things with it every time. I freaking love it. So we open this and we see...
Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me.
That's creepy. It's written so well, too. Ian Dallas, and he had help with others, but he was one of the main writers, and he's a creative director. He knows how to write, man. Like, he can turn a single phrase into, like, an epiphany. It can be such an image-rich phrase that it just makes you think in ways that you didn't know you could think. It stretches your brain in really interesting ways. So here's the first sense of a lot of books in the house, but we'll get more to that in a bit. Let's go this way. So there's one line I want to trigger here because it's a really, really, really cool line. Actually, I think you have to trigger it through the middle of the forest, so I won't go there. The reason I like it so much is there's a line, the house looks like it's smiling but has too many teeth. And that doesn't seem like it makes sense, but you look at the house and you're like, yeah, I kind of get it. And that's one of those image-rich visuals that they were able to make. And the voice actress, Valerie Rose Lohman, she said that was the line that made her realize like this was something special. She when she came in for her voice interview, or for her audition, I guess, she read the end of the game and she read the beginning of the game, and that line takes place at the beginning of the game. And she said that's when she knew like this was something that she was excited to be a part of, and I can't blame her for that. For all you completionists, don't miss this. You want to look out this hole here.
The house felt like it had always been here. Even the swing set was older than my mother.
And precariously at the edge of a cliff. Not a safe place to put a swing set. Alright.
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
And not pregnant. At this point, most players probably wouldn't notice that she's pregnant. The allure of looking down to see if you have feet on a first-person game is kind of not really a thing anymore, but yeah, that phrase has obviously double meaning when you realize she's also pregnant. Visibly pregnant, I should say.
The power had been turned off the night we left. For the first time in years, I felt like I was home.
Yeah. So here's where you get a first real glimpse of just how many books this house is built with. It just edges right up against absurdity. I actually, on my website, I cataloged every single one of the books in this house. I literally went frame by frame and wrote them all down. And most of the books, there's like 230 or so unique books, unique titles, a mix of actual books, real books, and a mix of made-up titles. But it's really interesting because when you read the titles of all the books, you actually get a lot of insight into each of the people.
But instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
God, that's a good line. So good. But yeah, you get a real sense of the people. So obviously there's a lot of cookbooks here, and you'll notice that a lot of the cookbooks are like local cooking. So there's cooking. There's like Nordic cooking. This family is from Norway, but then you have Northwest Chef down there. You have a lot of these local cookbooks, and you realize later too all the kids were homeschooled, so they're like in a super self-efficient family. They're very, very cloistered, removed from the rest of the world, which I think really feeds into the ability to sort of believe in myth in the way that Edie and her family do.
Like how after Lewis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
Molly's a good cat name. In the chat, are you playing the newest release? Yeah, I think this is the 60 frames per second one. So I believe. Zokun 2307, so I hear you like this game. You hear correctly.
Or how only one restaurant would deliver to our house. So we had Chinese a lot.
Not a bad thing to have delivered. Alright. And then over here.
The table was still a wreck from the night we left.
And at the end of the game,
it was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
See, those are such good lines in this game. Yeah, you play through this last night, or at least you watched through this last night at the end of the game.
Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth.
Yeah, that's the line. That's the line that Valerie, the voice actress Valerie
Even
Rose
the
Loman
fireplace had a story.
made her fall in love with this.
Edie told me the bricks came from the original house, after it sank.
I love that they introduced the house to that with the word sank, because you're so confused. Like, how does a house sink? And if that's the house, how does it sink? And so they're planting all these seeds of you having to sort of already stretch your own version of the world before you even get to it. Like, the whole game is priming you to think in these abstracts so that when you learn the truth or untruth or the myth or whatever, you're sort of lulled into it and you're sort of willing to accept it in a way that you wouldn't have been in any
Mom
other
always
way.
told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
Yeah.
Great-Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house.
So good. Man, I feel like I'm talking too much and not enough at the same time. Don't forget to donate, people. It's my birthday. It really is, in case you're new to the stream.
My
It's
mom
birthday.
wasn't much of an optimist, but she never stopped believing that my brother Milton was alive.
Yeah, so Milton is... So the short version of the story is every Finch is dead except for Edith at this point, and you're playing as Edith right now. And you're trying to figure out if what killed the Finches really is a curse, as Edith's great-grandmother would insist, or if there's something else at play. She's just looking for closure, really. But Milton's death is unique, and his death is the only one that's truly a mystery, like, because he literally just disappeared. So I guess the short version might be he was maybe kidnapped, but he's the only one where there's basically no body, or assumedly, we don't actually see bodies in this game, but like where there's assumedly no body found. And so yeah, his is a mystery. But if you played the developer's first game, The Unfinished Swan, the link is that Milton is actually the king from The Unfinished Swan. It doesn't really elaborate or help the mystery or solve the mystery, but that is the lore there. And here's where you see kind of the first real sort of shocking, holy crap, those books look like they're walls, in the sense that maybe the house feels literally built by books. And it's also the first time you're able to actually look into a peephole.
Edie told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in the library.
That's another one of those double phrasing, every Finch is buried in the library. If the Finch's legacy is story, and the library's full of stories, then it makes logical sense, but mythical sense at the same time. I love it. So let's go. I think we've got pretty much downstairs. Let's go upstairs.
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
I love that fighting too. between so Dawn was the Edith's mother, or Edie's daughter. Edie, and so Dawn is basically, she wants out of this whole myth thing. She thinks it's crazy nonsense. Edie's like, no, we need to keep these shrines to our dead relatives, and Dawn is like, that's crazy, I'm boarding them up. And so then Edie's like, well, I'm just gonna put peepholes in there so I can still see.
My Grandpa Sam spent 7 years sharing a room with his dead brother, Calvin.
Again, he wasn't dead at the time, but the brother is dead now. There's a sense of time means nothing to this family, you know? Being alive is the same as being dead. Myth is the same as reality. It's great.
As a kid, I just assumed every house had peepholes and sealed rooms you weren't allowed inside of.
Again, speaking to how cloistered they are, how removed they are from society, it's really cool. One of the things that always confused me, I don't think I ever caught it, but there's a lot of framed bugs, and I don't think any of the family members are like lepidopterists or bug collectors or anything like that. I might have missed it, but I think that's just a cool, creepy detail, as I think. But I don't know. Maybe I'll learn what it is this time through.
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
Valerie actually auditioned also for Barbara's part. So she auditioned for Barbara and Edith, and got Edith. And I couldn't think of it any other way.
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
She also did the voice of Jess in the Wolfenstein Youngblood game, which, for as many problems as that game has, even though I love it, the voice acting is absolutely one of the best parts of that game, for sure. There's Barbara's room.
Barbara was a child star for 2 years, until America grew out of it.
I love that line. All right, let's actually try to explore a death here. I think the first one we can do is Molly, but we don't actually get to Molly through. So this is Molly's room. I'll give you a gander.
Molly always seemed like a girl I could imagine being friends with, if she hadn't died in 1947.
So here is the only open door with no peephole, which I don't think, from like a narrative perspective, I don't think there's any reason for that being the case. I think it's really just a gameplay reason. You need some way to get into this room, because I think, from narratively speaking, Walter, whose room this is, would have been, I guess he did die before Edie, so Edie would have had time to put in a peephole.
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up.
Okay. So here's...
Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
Is my audio still working, everybody? I see a message in the Discord that I think's old, but maybe not. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. All right. Oh, those gloves too. So the one of the artists, the technical artist, I believe, her name was Chelsea Hash, I think, and she went on to do like Solar Ash and work on a couple of other studios. She fought so hard to ensure that these gloves get put into the game, and they were very difficult to do, but she insisted. She's like, no, they need to be there. They need to be there. And even Ian Dallas, the creative director, never really understood why, but he was like, eventually like, fine, you know, whatever. And even after the game, like, I'm still not sure why they need to be there, but they work. Like, they should. Like, I can't imagine that detail not being there, which is pretty cool.
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets.
I'm so jealous of this house.
Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Reading this,
Sprite.
maybe it sounds like I had a plan.
I bet you could reach out to the artist and they could give you like full like flat renders of the glove so you could see like every side of them. I bet they would. Yeah, so this first time you get a sense of the...
It was clear my brother Milton had been here before me.
Yeah. Of the secret ways to get around in the house, which is just cool. Just cool.
But I
as
had
hell.
no idea what was behind that door. Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead.
Okay, I'm gonna start beelining some stuff so you can see cool stuff, because we're already at like 20 minutes in, 26 minutes in.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat. The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it. Mom, can I come out now?
Sweetheart, it's late. Go to sleep.
So I have a theory that one of the reasons Edie holds on to myth so much, and that was Edie yelling right there, Molly's mother, Edith's great-grandmother, the whole person who behind all the myths. My theory is that so Molly's death, which is this one right now that we're first experiencing, it's the first one, or it's the only one that you could say is maybe directly Edie's fault. So Edie sends her to bed without dinner, and then as you'll see play out, Edie ends up going out the bedroom window, and the implication is that either she fell to her death, or she got poisoned because she's so hungry and she started eating things in this room that are poisonous. Either way, like, this is the one death where you could say, like, it's kind of Edie's fault. And my theory is that so Edie started kind of distancing herself from this death by creating myth, by furthering the myth, and really leaning into it and saying, no, it wasn't my fault. It's just the way it has to be. We're cursed, because every other death isn't so much directly related to hers. And chronologically, this would be the first one that Edie would have been a part of. So
I ate a lot of things that night.
And holly berries are pretty poisonous, I think. So, like, it could be right there that this is what's killed her.
I kept eating and eating. Then I heard chirping outside my window. I thought about eating Christopher, but I held back.
Thank you, Molly. Appreciate that.
It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly, I was a cat.
Yeah, that's such a cool, interesting transformation. That's the first transformation of many, and that's the one that really, like, this is the first time the player's like, wait a second, what's going on? Like, something's weird. So this is like where the player has to force themselves into thinking, like, okay, is myth real or is myth not real? Because right now you could still be in the brain of a child, just imagining things and having fun with things, right? So you could just toss it aside that way.
But the bird was really scared.
Thank you to whoever donated. I heard the sound, but I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
There's Edie.
I jumped and I almost got her.
How are we doing on time? Yeah, nice. Whoops.
I could tell she was getting really tired. Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird.
This is cool. You can actually see that red light out there. I didn't realize you could see it from here, but you'll learn later that's actually the house that sank. That's cool. I didn't know you could see that from right there.
I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl. First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
I can't remember if you actually have to have skills on this or if it's just kind of... or if you just can... Because I don't see any rabbits right now. Let's see here. Maybe I'll just... Wait, there we go. There's one. Okay, it's hard to control, guys. I promise. There we go. There we go. Gotcha. You bastard.
Imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons.
It is true. It is just one missed meal.
I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger. A mama rabbit.
Come on. I think this is the only part of the game that actually does require some kind of dexterity.
She was almost too
I'll tell myself that.
hairy. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark.
In a tree. And this is where you have to, like, really sort of realize, okay, this game is going to ask me to believe a lot of stuff. This is where you kind of, that line is broken between, like, Molly is just a kid imagining things.
I rolled off
And
the
a
cliff
kid.
and into the ocean. Now,
There's something
I was
different
hungrier
going
than
on
ever.
here. I think that's what I want to name the book to that I'm writing is Suddenly I Was a Shark. That's my idea so far. Let's eat some seals.
I wanted fat, juicy seals.
Yeah, seals. Nice.
I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
You know what? I think I could be Molly's friend too.
I grabbed on tight. But I was so hungry, I jumped out
Thanks,
of the
Trav.
water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
Now I'm a tentacle monster. This actually controls really cool. I would love
Now I
to
was
see a
a
game
monster, and I smelled people everywhere.
using this tech, because it's much easier to control than you would think.
I was big, but I moved real quiet.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to tie in the name Edith Finch into the title. Like, that's the weird thing, is I do want to have What Remains of Edith Finch in the title somewhere, but I'm thinking, like, you know, What Remains of Edith Finch,
I wanted to stop,
Or like-
but also I didn't.
like, and Suddenly I Was a Shark. Just maybe this, but it's not really going to be the story of What Remains of Edith Finch. I don't know. I'm open to ideas, somehow to fit that in there. For you completionists, if you sit here and wait until he finishes his story, you'll get a trophy. But it's really long, so I'm not going to do that. And also, there's no platinum in this game. It's just a bunch of trophies. If you get all the trophies, there's like no platinum.
After the last passenger, I was still hungry. And across the water, I smelled something new. Something I had to have. so I swam towards it. I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
This all controls so well.
I got closer and closer. All of my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
God, I love that line.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
Yeah, and after every death, she kind of does comment a little bit saying, you know, I'm not sure if I believe that, I'm not sure if that's real. And so you definitely get the sense that Edith she doesn't believe in the myth so much, but you also, when you think about the fact that she's writing this journal to her son, so that at the beginning you saw the son carrying the journal, and this is sort of a framed narrative where now we're back in time living Edith's life as she writes this journal for her son to read. You get a sense, though, that she's trying to tell her son, like, hey, I don't believe in this stuff. You can believe it if you want to, but I don't. But then she's also documenting it in a way that later she is mad at Edie for doing. You know, the whole idea of writing down stories to change the reality. She's kind of doing the same thing here. And so maybe it really is a curse. Like, maybe just the idea of wanting some sort of legacy, a strive for any sort of legacy, is the curse. And the only way that you can abandon the curse is by basically absolving all ego and being like, I don't want anyone to remember me for anything. And that's a pretty tough ask. I'm not sure that there's any person that could
I can't describe
really say
it,
that.
but I felt like some part of Molly was still here.
I grew up looking at Molly's room through the peephole.
Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier gerbil cage.
I don't think oh yeah, I gotta go out the window. So yeah, in every one of these stories too, they kind of teach you the way to get out next, which is pretty cool. How are we doing on time? 20 minutes, people! We might get through a couple more stories.
This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories.
Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly.
I spent a lot of time in Great-Grandma Edie's room.
Yeah, so this room is... You don't experience a death in this room, but what's really important about it... So Molly's story kind of lets us know that it is kind of the story where we see, like, the birth of Edie's, like, wanting to distance herself from death, right? She's kind of... She has this child that she's sort of mythified, distanced from herself in terms of responsibility for the death. And then here in Edie's room, you get a sense of Edie leaning so fully into that, because you'll walk around and you'll start reading newspaper clippings like this one.
Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious.
And the mole man is, we learn later, Walter, which... for reasons I don't think we'll get to in this playthrough, but he basically lives in a bunker all his life. So that's Edie right there, just mythologizing her family in a way that is, again, I think trying to distance herself from responsibility. That's my vote anyway.
Louis died a week before we left, but Edie had already started to memorialize him.
Yeah, so Edie paints these portraits anytime someone dies, or maybe seems like they're going to die. I don't know. I was always confused by this because I'm not sure if she paints them just anytime and then when they die she happens to have them, or if she has this premonition of when they're going to die because she started painting this one before he died. So I don't know about that. I think she just kind of paints them when she has free time because she knows they're going to die eventually. I don't know. Here, this is really
like
good stuff.
a museum. For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan. On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind. But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island. Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house.
Summary of what's come before.
Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
All right. Yeah, and if you read through here, there's a lot of Norwegian folk tales. There's a lot of books about myth, a lot of just a lot of books that it seemed like they would influence Edie's world perspective pretty substantially.
One summer, they evacuated the island, but Edie refused to go. For a few weeks, she was a celebrity.
Yeah, see, that whole idea of being a celebrity and mythologizing their life, it's something she, I think, fell in love with Molly's death. And maybe she feels bad about that, too, like the fact that she sort of emotionally benefited from Molly's death.
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay.
Even in her 90s. Sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
Ooh, that frog. That's a... I don't think we'll get to that story in this stream, which is probably a good thing.
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom.
It was a pretty big trace.
Funny thing, top spot. So, like, yeah, the sad face about the Gregory story. When I was talking to Valerie Rose Lohman, I keep saying the full name, but I feel pretentious saying just Valerie. But anyway, when I was talking to her, she when she read for the part, she read for that story. Or no, when she already had the part and she was recording the story, recording voice lines, she didn't realize Gregory was actually a baby, and so you hear that recording. It's like the actress has no idea like what's really at stake and going on there, which I just thought was really cool. She was like, it wasn't until I actually played it when I was like, oh god. Yeah.
There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
15 minutes left. We'll probably have time for one more story, which is actually my favorite story in the game, surprisingly, probably.
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished.
Probably be surprised by that.
He never put it down.
More Milton stuff. And liquor. All right. Hello, Sketch and Hobbies.
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin, and that he never talked about him. I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
Yeah, so this story, I'll talk a little bit about it and why maybe it's my favorite with the minutes we have left. So the game's been pretty low on gameplay, like in terms of like also like learning mechanics and things like that. So you're kind of so far you've used pretty standard mechanics. You've moved forward with the joysticks, you've opened doors with the right trigger. And here in this story, you're kind of planted, and all of those things that you would normally do, the right trigger and stuff, they don't really work. I'm pressing them right now, they're just not working. And you have to kind of experiment with the controller to kind of know what's going on. So if I move the right stick, it moves the right kick. If I move the left stick, it moves the left foot. And at first, you're kind of moving around all willy-nilly, and you're like, I don't really understand what's going on. And then eventually, you kind of almost accidentally fall into moving them at the same time.
My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom. And he did.
And you realize that, oh, I'm learning how to
Barbara's
swing.
funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't.
And so you're actually kind of learning to swing, much like a child would kind of learn to swing. And I also like how the control is so well mapped to the actual activity that's happening. It breaks down sort of a barrier of immersion that few games really have. I think like Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, if anyone's played that, knows what I'm talking about, where you're playing this game and each joystick you're controlling a different brother. And there's a part in the game where you're only able to control one joystick, and you truly are like, you truly feel like you've lost a limb. You've lost some part of you because you've been spending hours playing a certain way and you're no longer able to play it the other way. And it's just crazy, man. It's like, I love when a game can do that. And this game actually does that again later in the game in Lewis's story, which we won't get to here. But Lewis's story is most people's favorites. This one's my favorite because it introduces you to that concept of like you're learning how to swing, and you truly do have to time it just right in order to actually get going. I also like that here you can see how close he is to the cliff. Again, why would a family build
I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
a swing this close to the cliff? It's just incredibly dangerous. So again, it makes me think
Calvin, dinner's ready.
Coming!
their deaths are
That
more
day,
logical than
He
mythological.
finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible.
And it is, actually. Fun fact.
Maybe if I hadn't said that.
Calvin, I'm not gonna tell you again.
Maybe if the wind hadn't picked up. Then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother. The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
True. It does have to be a stiff-barred swing. Top, you're right. But yeah, with chains, it's once you hit 90
Calvin's
degrees,
story felt strangely familiar.
you can't
When I was younger,
much
I
more.
remember trying to do the exact same thing.
I like this story too because now we have a child who. So with Molly's story, that was Edie kind of distancing herself from blame. With and then you learn more about Edie and her sort of love of legend and myth, and basically the love of legend and myth that spawned from her younger daughter's death, essentially, is the way I look at it anyway. And here with Calvin, you can almost sense like Edie looking over Sam's shoulder as he's writing this letter about his brother's death, because this is also the only letter that's from the perspective of it's intentionally trying to memorialize someone. So the other letters are either from the people themselves, like Molly, or they're from like legal representatives or people who are just unaffiliated with the family. But this one is actually someone where you can almost see Edie looking over Sam's shoulder being like, no, make sure you say that he did fly. Make sure you say he did this. And she's almost trying to indoctrinate the family then into this idea of myth. And so you can see that kind of throughout the generations, which is really cool. We only have 10 minutes left, and the next story is Barbara's. Barbara's is, I think, Barbara's is where you see like the full...
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room. Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
Barbara's story is... I love that. It's like the full circle, because Barbara is the child actress, so she's someone who was literally raised to be a myth, be a legend. You know, that's her entire life. Oh man. Pam's after me, by the way. Everybody who's watching, definitely stick around.
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
Pam's after me. She's going to do Rayman Legends, which is a game that I'm terrible at, so I cannot wait to see her kick ass at it. So yeah, stick around for everyone. This is kind of cool too. You can see... This is like the Skyrim door, like at the end of the dungeon where you're able to get out and go to the beginning. But yeah, if you were really paying attention at the beginning, you could have looked down through the wine and actually seen the stuff back here. Yeah, so this is...
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
Yeah, so this room is a lot like Edie's if you think about it. It's basically like a shrine to a person built as the person is still alive, which again straddles that whole life and death thing that this whole game is about. Like, what is myth? What's reality? What's death? What's legacy? You know, this person's memorializing herself as she's still alive, which is equal parts egotistical, sure, on the mythological side, but then also it feels kind of natural. I mean, how many of us haven't hung our medals in our room to remember how great we were, kind of thing, you know? I love how this game can kind of bring that into perspective.
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
So here, this will be, where are we? We're at 7 minutes. I'll go ahead and start Barbara's. I don't know if we'll actually get through it.
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up, a has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her
Thank
youngest
you,
brother,
Anonymous.
Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but
That
I'm
Rick,
not
that's actually
hearing
Ian Dallas,
terror.
the creative director's
What if I
voice.
tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box.
I was actually scheduled to interview the guy who created this. Someone said they liked the art in this. The guy who created the art, his name is James Callahan. I was scheduled to interview him right after the stream, actually, but I have some stuff I have to take care of, so I wasn't able to. But I will be talking to him. Apparently, he's not much of a gamer, and so I was talking to the lead artist of the game, and the lead artist who worked with the comic book artist has no idea if the guy who created the comic book pages for this ever played it, or where it really went from that. So I wanted to talk to him about that a little bit. But I'm right about at the end, so any further I go, it probably won't really work. So I'll just talk. Maybe I'll spend a couple seconds here first, thanking everyone for watching, and definitely stick around because Pam is coming up, and it's going to be super great. And actually, let me just do this so you can see my face, my lovely face. Pam is coming up. It's going to be super great. Going to be streaming Rayman Legends. And please definitely donate. It's a great cause. There's links in the description of this video to donate. There's also links to read about the wonderful organization that we're doing this charity stream for. With that out of the way, I will say the thing about Barbara's story that I think is really, really cool and really important to take in mind is that you have to think of the magazine that we're reading from right now. Obviously was a mass-marketed magazine. It was a magazine that was sold to people. So these people knew about some of these secrets in the house, like this one where you turn the crank to get that secret key. Obviously the people who made the magazine knew about it, so someone had to tell them about that, and that was probably Edie. And then there's also, you learn later on as you go in the basement, there's a secret passageway down there that really you could only have known about had you read this book, or this magazine. So again, Edie is she's really, really just obsessed with expressing to the world how unique her family is, and how basically how otherworldly her family is. Again, I think because it all distills down to that first death, Molly's, where she feels responsible for it, and this is her kind of breaking down. I've talked to other people about their theories and stuff, and it's just there's different theories all around. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun streaming this game. I will probably end up continuing to play it later on this afternoon because I've started already, and it's just a game I love playing so much. But yeah, it's been really fun. So for the next 2 minutes, I'll keep playing. But Pam, I hope you're almost ready. And then when you are ready, maybe when there's I'll give a 5-second countdown like they did for me the first time, maybe, and then I will stop my stream so that you can get started. Let me know in the Discord, Pam, if for some reason you need me to keep going or you're not ready or whatever that might be. But otherwise, 2 minutes, it'll be you. Yeah, this part was apparently really technically difficult to have these 2D panels. There are these panels that you can move around in. You can also hit all this stuff down, which is fun. All right, 1 more minute to Pam. This is perfect intro music to Pam. Creepy horror movie music. That horror guy, what's his name? The really famous one. He was actually going to do the voice of the Crypt Keeper, Carpenter, John Carpenter. He was going to, but the timing just didn't line up. Sad, huh? All right. This is going to be... It's Rick trying to get her scream back. Yeah, you deserve it. You deserve it. All right, everybody. Okay, Pam, are you ready? Thank you all so much. Pam, are you ready? Okay. Go 5, 4, 3. Should I wait till Pam confirms that she's ready? I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared. Yeah, I'll do that. Pam, okay, good. She's good to go. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.